Your off-grid bathroom is about to get an upgrade.
That's amazing!
If you live off-grid, you probably know how difficult having water sources can be. This Compost toilet system that I'm sitting on does not utilize any water and is stink-free. I want to show you how I built this Compost toilet and talk about the possibility of composting your humanure. Now, this is not a new subject for me. Over 20 years ago, I discovered Joseph Jenkins and this book, The Humanure Handbook. In this book, he goes over how you can safely and simply compost your humanure. And I did, in fact, put this into practice when we lived in Alaska. We lived there for over 14 years, year-round, and 10 of those years we did not have running water. That meant we were hauling 5 gallons of water into the house at a time. So water was a precious commodity, not to be used in the toilet. I had little kids at the time, and this compost toilet worked really well for us. It enabled us to have an indoor toilet even at 60 below zero. That is definitely a plus. It's an easy system, doesn't take any water, and it's not as weird or gross as you may think.
Typical compost toilet, you can accept both solids and liquids in the bucket, but I wanted to separate them out so that my urine would divert into a soakaway pit behind my yurt.
It is smooth as a baby's bottom.
In order to do that, I bought this toilet seat with a urine diverting insert from Separate. It's got the urine diverter, but basically what that allows to happen is the urine to go outside my yurt and through a tube into a soakaway pit, which I built just for this purpose. Okay, there we go. To compost your material, you're going to need to build a bin, line it with a biological sponge to prevent leachate, and simply learn how to manage it with the correct techniques and the appropriate cover material. If it ever stinks, you just need more cover material. So we've got the urine diverter and the tube. There you go.
So let's jump in. I'll give you a tour of my bathroom and I'll show you how I built everything.
So here is the full tour of my off-grid bathroom. This simple setup is really all you need. Right next to the toilet, I have a bucket of cover material, and after you go, you simply cover up your deposit. Simple as that. This is my self-contained bathroom sink. All the water is in one place, and it is hands-free hand washing. This is a USB rechargeable faucet pump, and I will have a video coming out soon to show you that process. Simple motion activated battery lights. These actually, you just press the button down here to turn on. Those are battery operated. This is a really small space with a really large Betty White painting, but it is just enough room to do what you have to do. Toilet that actually drains the urine to the outside. I'm gonna try it out. Oh my gosh! I can get up in the middle of the night. I don't have to go to the outhouse. To build my toilet, I was using some scrap 3/4 inch plywood that I had, and I also ripped down some 2x4s so I could have some 1x. That would be the basis for building my box. From there, the 1xs were used as the corner supports to build the box. Pretty tall. Seems like it's tall. It was tall, so I cut it down 2 inches.
That's definitely more reasonable.
Next, I needed to cut the top piece.
There's the lid. And a trip.
Next, I needed to trace out the toilet seat opening, and to do that, I needed to disconnect the two pieces from each other. I gave myself a pilot hole with my drill and then used my jigsaw to cut it out.
Oh, that is not going to work.
Then I realized I needed to trace the bottom part of the seat opening.
Okay. All right, there we go. This is getting really dark. Let's see if this fits. Yes. Here we go. Toilet.
Here's the box it came in, and I never realized that it has a pattern for the seat right here on the box. So save yourself some problems, and you can just measure it like this if that's easier.
Next came a good sanding of the top and sides.
I used 3 different grades of sandpaper on this, so It is smooth as a baby's bottom. This was all scrap 3/4 inch plywood that I had, so this build didn't cost me anything. This insert for the toilet, I think was over $100. But if you were to buy the actual toilet itself, some of these can run over $1,000, believe it or not, for composting toilets. So it's definitely worth it to build your own. I will give you the dimensions that I use. I'll put that in the description. So if you want to build this system as well, you'll have the numbers to replicate what I've done here. I think it's a good size and very affordable, because otherwise all you need is a bucket.
It was time to seal up the wood.
Okay, she's dry. She's got 2 coats. This is what I used. I like this stuff. Water-based Helmsman spar urethane. I like that satin. Ooh, toilet glimmering in the light. It's very nice. Turned out good. Yeah. Oh, don't look in there.
Now it's time to screw down the lid and drill a hole through my floor to install the drain tube.
Urine diverter. So about 4 inches down. So I'm gonna drill my hole right about here. I've got a hole saw. Probably got 4 or more inches of material to get through. So we'll see where it comes out, and then we'll get things attached. All right, through the first layer. I'm into the foam insulation now, and I'm gonna need to clear out my bit. There we go. Now we can keep going. Still have my pilot hole. And I'm through. There's my hole to the outdoors. There's my plugs. Now I'm going to put the tubing through, insulate it, and dig my pit. Okay, here is my hole coming out. Now what I'm going to do is feed this tube up through there. That's going to attach to the urine separating portion. I believe this is an 8-foot hose.
It was time to start digging the pit. Now I have very well draining soil here, mostly sand. I had a few roots I had to cut out, but really all in all it wasn't that bad.
Okay. We're 3 feet down to the bottom, and it's about a 2x2 hole.
Next I was layering in landscape fabric to keep the soil from infiltrating into the rock that I would lay in. Now this is pea gravel, a couple bags, and then a coarser grade of gravel on top. Next I was tunneling out a little bit of a trench for the pipe to lay in. Now that would sit underneath the ground just a little bit coming out of the yurt. Next I was putting insulation over the pipe. Now maybe not necessary, it's a pretty steep drop, but just to be sure I wanted to do it anyway.
Okay, got the end of the tube going right into the bottom, and now I'm just gonna split this cloth so it'll go around the tube. Just gonna hold the dirt from sifting down on top of the rocks, keep that drainage open. So now fill the hole back up with dirt. Here's what it looks like in the hole, and going up to the top. Just pull the tape off and squeeze it together. Self-sealing, which is nice. Just using this spray foam. I'm just gonna hit right up in here and plug that crack.
Now I was simply filling the hole back up and making it look like it never happened.
Okay, there we go. So the toilet is all hooked up. These 2 components, the tube and the toilet seat, need to be disconnected but still able to work together. So I went and picked up like 3 different types of funnels to see which one is going to work best. But first I've got to cut the tubing so that I'll be able to lift up this toilet seat to actually service the bucket and to clean stuff. But I still need the tube to go down into the hole through the tube. So we're going to pick one of these funnels and make it work. So now we've got 2 separate things going on here.
That is what I needed. Honestly, I think any of these would probably work. Just tape them together. I'm sure it'd be fine. All right, here's my funnel. I just attached it to the tube with some electrical tape, and it kind of seated in there pretty good. Bucket in. Okay, here's the finished toilet. It's all good to go. If you lift up this lid, you can see you've got your bucket back here. I have to add the composting material yet. And the urine separator. And if you lift up the lid, there's both of them. So we've got the urine diverter and the tube and the funnel going to the tube, and it's all good to go. That is awesome. The next piece of this puzzle is you need a place to put the contents of your buckets. So you need to build a compost bin. Here I'm using just welded wire fence. You can find it at any farm store, or you can use pallets or whatever is easily available to you. Next, you create a biological sponge at the bottom and the sides of your bin. Here I'm using straw to accomplish that.
Now that you have your compost bin set up, you've got the biological sponge in the bottom to absorb any of the leachate so it will not go down into the soil and contaminate the soil. That's why we put this here. The next thing is to empty your bucket. So when you fill up your bucket from your toilet, you bring it outside with a lid on, okay? Then you're going to want to rake open the middle of your bin. So you're pulling back all the cover material and you want to dump that bucket into the middle of the compost pile. I'm just going to pretend this is just a sawdust bucket right now. You would pour the material in, rinse out your buckets with some water. You can scrub them up a little, pour the water back in. Then you're going to want to cover it back up and add more material on top. So the compost is never exposed. You'll never see it around the edges and you'll never see it from the top because the cover material is key to this system. It has to be covered. And this is going to start generating its own heat as it composts, and it's just going to be active with the microorganisms that are breaking down this material. So it's really key to have a good cover material, such as straw. You can use leaves, grasses, there's all kinds of things you can use as a cover material. It's going to provide just a little bit of space for the air and the oxygen to get in there to break it down. But in your bathroom and out here, if there's ever any odor at all, it's because you don't have enough cover material. So if it stinks, you need more cover material. There should never be any smell associated with this system. The composting process will slow down or even stop in some of the colder months, but it will pick back up once it warms up, so you don't have to worry about that. You're going to need to keep your cover material from freezing solid, so if you need to keep it under a tarp or in a shed, build a separate bin to keep it dry so you can use it in the winter to cover your material. Now, rain and such can be on the compost pile, and when this bin is full, I will have another one built and I will start using that one. This one rests for 1 year or so, and then you can start using it. So you're always swapping bins and you're always swapping buckets. So you should have plenty of buckets that are empty that you can have at the ready. And then if it's a cold spell or whatever and you just don't want to come out and dump your buckets, you can let them accumulate, but just don't let them freeze. The management of the system is really important. You need someone who's dedicated and who's not going to be afraid to implement this system and put it into place. But it really does work, and it's a great way to have an indoor bathroom. By the way, use the same rake over and over. I'm just going to hang this one in the tree so it's always right here and at the ready. I highly recommend you check out his new book, The Compost Toilet Handbook. It has a ton of pictures, all the things you need to know.
I use a couple of different types of cover material. I get sawdust straight from a local sawmill, and then I also mix that with some peat moss. They come in big bale bags, and I like to mix that together. And so you want to layer some at the bottom of your bucket, just to start. And then after you go, you want to just grab more of the material and cover it up.
And that way it just kind of traps all the smells.
By the way, just the setup that I bought is called the Privy by Separate. And when you buy it, they send you this little sample, which is a like a drain cleaner. It's got enzymes that help break down the buildup of urine in your tube. So I'm going to be placing that in the funnel part so you don't have to see it in here. I'm going to place it in the funnel, and that way it'll keep my drain clean from buildup. It's going to be fantastic in the middle of the night, especially when it gets colder. It is a really great option. It saves water, it's easy, and it really solves the issue of not having power and water off grid. Well guys, hope you liked the video. I'll see you in the next one. Squirrel in the woods. She gone. Oh, and don't forget to get outside and get happy.